Dear ladies and gentlemen, friends in the Dharma, greetings and Sukhi Hontu. My name is Banket from Kira Metta Buddhist Society, and I'm your MC for today. Welcome to our online Dhamma sharing session on the Breaking Myths series. This Dhamma series is initiated and organized by Johor Gladians Metta Buddhist Fellowship in collaboration with The Cradle and the Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. We are also cross-broadcasting via Facebook Live with 14 Buddhist organizations across the country. Let us pay homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One, by reciting the 3 refuges and 5 precepts. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinnadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccachara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Imani panca sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani panca sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani panca sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, let me introduce today's speaker, Dr. Punna Wong Yin On. Dr. Punna Wong graduated from University of Malaya. He joined Monash University in 2007 as an associate professor in internal medicine to form the pioneer faculty of the clinical school in Johor Bahru. He has been sharing the Dhamma regularly in Malaysia, Singapore, and Jakarta in the past 2 decades, and was an invited speaker at the 3rd, 7th, and 8th Global Conference on Buddhism. And he is a huge Star Wars fan. Dr. Punna authored his first Dhamma book entitled Walking in the Buddha's Footprints in 2016. which consists of a compilation of 100 reflective essays by him. In October last year, he launched his second Dhamma book entitled Breaking Myths, and is now sharing chapters from this book with us. Today, he is going to share with us the topic called Truth is in the Books. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, Dhamma brothers and sisters. Very happy New Year to all of you. And I hope that you are well. Let me just make this full screen. Yes, I hope that you all are well and safe as our country moves through rather difficult times. We will all join together in unity and do our best to tide over this very trying period. Thank you, Brother Banket. And tonight, I am sharing on the breaking of myths as to whether truth is just found in books or is truth found anywhere and everywhere that we look around. So let us start by asking ourselves a very basic question. We always talk about Dhamma. But what is Dhamma? And here we are referring to Dhamma written with a capital D. When Dhamma is written with a small lowercase d, it has a completely different meaning. Now we are only referring to Dhamma with a capital D. Is Dhamma life itself, or is it something separate from daily life? Is there any distinguishing demarcation between what is Dhamma and what is not Dhamma? Or does Dhamma have any label, any particular domain, or under the exclusive monopoly of any religion or group or teacher? These are important questions that we need to ask ourselves. Now, in reality, Dhamma simply refers to the way nature is and the way our mind functions. For lack of a better word, we often call it the universal laws of nature. But this is actually not a very good translation. For the instant you say the universal laws of nature, someone will say, then who created this law? So that's not a very good translation. Dhamma simply is the way nature is and the way our mind functions. For example, it is the Dhamma of fire to burn and to cause to burn. Hence, Dhamma has nothing to do with any religion. It simply is the nature of fire to burn. How can the nature of fire belong to any faith or religion? Fire is simply fire. To narrow down the scope, of course, we refer it as the Buddha Dhamma. If not, we'll be talking on everything from chemistry to physics to veterinary medicine. So here we narrow it down to Buddha Dhamma. That is what the Buddha taught. And while the Buddha Dhamma might sound very formidable for many, and for many people, when they look at the four Nikayas, which is the collection of the Pali Canon, and then they hear that there are 84,000 Dhamma teachings within this Pali Canon, people get frightened. Sister Liming, for example, is worried when she sees the thickness of the Nikayas. If you put all the four Nikayas on top of each other, it's 1.5 feet tall. But the core of the 84,000 teachings is actually very simple. You have 8 for the Eightfold Path, 4 for the Four Noble Truths, and 000 for the 3 universal characteristics of anicca, dukkha, anatta, that is impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self. I have to remind all of us, including myself constantly, that the first person to become a sotapan, that is Anya Kondana, all he learned from the Buddha was the middle way, the Eightfold Path, and the Four Noble Truths. And he became a sotapan. And subsequently, he and the other 4 other disciples of the original 5 learned on top of that the 3 universal characteristics as taught in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, and all 5 of them became arahants, fully awakened beings. So the core teaching is basically just 84000. The rest of the other 83,000 odd discourses are commentaries on these fundamental first and second discourse that the Buddha gave, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta and the Anattalakkana Sutta. So I want to assure Sister Li Ming that while the 4 Nikayas stacked together is 1.5 feet tall, what she actually needs to have a good understanding of the Buddha Dhamma is actually just 2 discourses. So the application of Dhamma in our life is because there is an appropriate way for all of us to live in order for ourselves and everyone that we come in contact with to have happiness and to avoid the causes of suffering. So you can well imagine it is a very challenging task to translate it, this word Dhamma, as there is no single word English equivalent. So a very apt use is just this phrase that if you live in accordance with the Dhamma, it is a harmonious way of living. And this harmonious way of living is one that is in tune with the realities of nature. So in Chinese, Dhamma is for fa. And if you look at the Chinese word for fa, you will see 3 dots symbolizing water, and this word meaning chu chi, to go out. So the Buddha Dhamma is like us learning how to negotiate around the realities of life with the path of least resistance, in harmony and moving with ease. So if you take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, it does not mean that magically, poof, all your problems will go away. No, that is a false promise that does not come true. It doesn't mean that you will suddenly live a life that is completely without problems. Instead, what it means is that when you learn the Buddha Dhamma, when you see the realities of life, you know how to deal with these problems of life in the path that will give us the most happiness, causing the least unhappiness, and the path of least resistance. So Dhamma is from a Sanskrit word which means to hold, to maintain, to preserve. It's the way the universe and the human mind behaves, science and psychology. And the Buddha Dhamma teaches us behavior and means of living to prevent society, our family, and nations from descending into chaos. It teaches us duties that we must do as human beings and what is morally appropriate behavior. Its reason is to preserve, maintain righteousness and harmony. And hence, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, living in accordance with the Dhamma means acting in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha, understanding the three universal characteristics of impermanence, dukkha, and non-self, and understanding the Four Noble Truths. And the result of living in this right way is outlined clearly for us in the Eightfold Path, the fourth aspect of the Four Noble Truths. And this will lead us to harmony, awakening, and enlightenment. So, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, when our lives are aligned with the Dhamma, it brings us joy, fulfillment, peace, and calmness, despite all the ups and downs of lives that is inevitable and in many ways unavoidable. Now, Ajahn Chah, in the book No Ajahn Chah, is quoted as saying that outward scriptural study is not important. Of course, he said the Dhamma books are correct, but he said that they cannot give you right understanding. And he illustrated by saying, for example, the word anger that we see in print. It is not the same as experiencing anger yourself. And he very rightly says that only experiencing it will really tell you what is anger and give you right understanding and true faith. So it is not just reading the Dhamma books, but actually looking around life and seeing the realities of life in ourselves and in our surrounding. Shanti Deva said it so well. He said, I do not desire suffering. Yeah, I'm very sure the 250 people listening now, none of us here desire suffering. We all do not want suffering. Yet the fool that we are, we desire the cause of suffering. And what it means is, none of us desire suffering. And yet the fools that we are, we keep on creating the causes of suffering. In Chinese, it says that the Pusa, the wise one, the Bodhisattva, he is not afraid of the fruits, the vipaka. Zhongsen, the rest of us, we are very afraid of the fruits. The Bodhisattva, in his great wisdom, or the wise one in his great wisdom, is afraid of the cause, the seed. He is not afraid of the fruits. I.e., let me explain. Whatever we are experiencing now, be it good, be it bad, that is the fruits. Of course, we all enjoy the fruits if it is pleasant. If the fruit now is unpleasant, we hate it, we reject it, we dislike it intensely. So that's us, Zhongsen. We are very afraid of the kuo. But the wise one, the Bodhisattva, the one who has wisdom, he is not afraid of the kuo. He is afraid of the yin. He is afraid of the seed. That means whatever he is dealing with now, the kuo, whether pleasant, whether unpleasant, whether neutral, the wise person does not want to create causes of future suffering. He doesn't want to initiate the yin that will give rise to the kuo in the future, which is unpleasant. While the rest of us, not so wise, Zhongsen, we are very afraid of the kuo. And in the process of either grabbing onto this kuo, which is pleasant, or pushing it away, which is unpleasant, we create many, many seeds, many, many yin, which might give rise to future unhappiness. I hope you understand this very profound statement. Pusa is afraid of yin. Zhongsen is afraid of kuo, which is basically what Shanti Deva said. I do not desire suffering. Nobody wants this fruit. But yet the fool that I am, I desire the cause. That means I keep on doing things which plants the cause of future suffering. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, I hope you understand this very profound teaching. So if you are to ask ourselves, are we walking this noble path correctly? Well, one question I want to ask ourselves, I ask myself, do I have peace? Because if I am walking this path correctly, if I'm applying the knowledge of the Buddha Dhamma correctly, if I know Dhamma, then I will certainly have peace. Whatever the winds blow, I remain calm and still and peaceful. So if you know Dhamma, you will know peace. If you are not peaceful despite walking this path, then you have not understood your Dhamma. Are you happy? If you are truly living the Buddha's Dhamma, truly applying the Buddha's teaching, you will be a very happy person. You will be, because you are living in every moment, you are appreciating all the blessings, and you are not planting fruits for future suffering. Now, the teachings of the Buddha are merely the realities of life which are found everywhere, not just in books kept in a dusty cupboard. Very often when I visit various centers, people will show me the library or a cupboard where the Tipitaka is kept. And you can see it is obvious it hasn't been open for a long, long time. People literally pray to the Tipitaka. What for? It doesn't serve any purpose. It's like us giving you a key and telling you this key helps you to open the door to happiness. And instead of using the key to open the door, we hang the key on an altar and pray to the key every day. And every day we chant Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, which is the same as saying the key Gacchami Saranang Gacchami. There is no use. You could have used the key to open the door. And Dhamma is not Buddhist truth. Dhamma is just realities of life, which is universal. It is unchanged by locality or culture or time. It is also verifiable. So what is the truth? If I were to tell you, if a child is born, that child will one day die. That is a truth. Whether you like it, whether you do not like it, it is reality. So that is the truth. Whether we choose to believe it or to disbelieve it. And this is what the Buddha was trying to teach us. In the first noble truth, for example, he taught us the states which give rise to suffering. He taught us about pancha upadana khandha, that whatever you grasp onto these things, you will suffer. Whether we choose to believe or not believe it, that is reality. We all chant this very often, the qualities. And it says that the Dhamma of the Blessed One, the Buddha Dhamma, is perfectly expounded. It is to be seen here and now. You can look around you, brothers and sisters, and you will see the Dhamma everywhere. I look at my computer, and as I shared last week, I see the Dhamma, because that computer is anicca, is dukkha, it's anatta. It's impermanent, it is dissatisfactory, and it is not self. And the Dhamma, you don't have to die to see it. It's not delayed in time. It's right now in front of us everywhere. And importantly, the Buddha Dhamma invites you to come and experience for yourself that it is the truth. So truth is impersonal. It does not favor anyone or forgive, or is bent by prayers or offerings. And this the Buddha clearly stated in the Itta Sutta, which I've shared many a times. The Buddha said in that particular sutta that everybody wants long life, beauty, everybody wants to be healthy, nobody wants to grow old and sick, everybody wants beauty, everybody wants to go to heaven. And the Buddha say, everybody is praying for this, day and night they pray for this. And the Buddha clearly tell that if prayer works, no one will grow old, no one will fall sick, and no one will die. And everybody will be as beautiful as Miss Universe or Mr. Universe. And he said, look around you. Just look around and see. And you will know that this is manifestedly not true. So he said, if you want long life, you create the conditions for long life. You want beauty, happiness, etc., etc. You create the conditions for it. Mere prayer, which is a shortcut, the easy way that everybody wants, the Buddha says, does not work. It is very bad advertisement. But what the Buddha taught in that sutta is absolutely correct. And it is one of the suttas which made a huge turning point in my life. Because prior to that, we all think, oh, if I pray hard enough, if I have enough faith, if I have enough devotion, then this will not happen. And I can tell you honestly, anybody who uses his common sense, be objective, you will see this is manifestedly untrue. Did not the Jews during the Holocaust pray very hard? Did not the people suffering in the Middle East now, having bombed, having starvation, illness, etc., are they not praying very hard? And yet, everyone suffers. Reading that particular sutta is so liberating when you understood that what the Buddha said is truth, not promises. So stop negotiating, brothers and sisters. Stop negotiating with your imaginary friend. Instead, start acting. If you want happiness, create the conditions for happiness. If you want beauty, create the conditions for beauty, etc. And the Dalai Lama himself, someone I greatly admire, said, although I'm a Buddhist monk, I'm skeptical that prayers alone will achieve world peace. You need to take action. The time for us to consider seriously how to change our way of life, not through more prayer, not through more chanting, etc., etc., but through education. And we must remember, the Dhamma started as an education. It is an education that when we learn and apply will give rise to transformation. And that is the only miracle that the Buddha accepted, the transformation of ourselves to be a better person. So the lotus flower is often used to symbolize Buddhism. The lotus flower grows in mud. Its petals, its leaves are beautiful in that the mud, the water, anything that falls on it doesn't stick, but will just run off. It is symbolic of how we can, like the lotus flower, be living in an environment which we would call dirty, muddy, and yet rise up to be beautiful. So the Dhamma is in us, in our surrounding, not just in sacred books. It's everywhere in our mundane lives. And there is nothing that the Buddha wanted us to believe, but a lot to know and do. We need to verify this. And then you will not have just simply faith, but confidence that it is true. In reality, whether you believe the Buddha or not, frankly, is immaterial. Whether you believe you have a rebirth or not, frankly, is immaterial. Because after you die, you will know. And whether you even call yourself a Buddhist or not is also immaterial, because it is not what we label ourselves which is important. Ultimately, it is what we do, because that is karma. So, little though he recites the sacred text, but he puts the teaching into practice, forsaking lust, hatred, and delusion, with true wisdom and emancipated mind, clinging to nothing of this or that. He indeed partakes of the blessings of a holy life. So it is not how religious we appear to be. It is not how much I chant, how much I appear to be very, very religious. That's only for show. In reality, as this verse in the Dhammapada clearly teaches us, is whether we are putting this teaching into practice. And this is one of Brother Ananda Fong's favorite verses, one of mine too. Thank you, Brother Ananda Fong, for making this slide. So we need to act, we need to learn, and compassion and wisdom are the two wings. We learn what to do, we know what to do. That's wisdom. But wisdom alone is inadequate, because wisdom teaches us what to do. And what we do is virtue. Virtue is doing it. Wisdom is knowing what to do. So you need both. As I said repeatedly, metta, karuna are verbs. You know, I must live with metta. I must have great karuna. I must have loving kindness. And you chant that a zillion times to condition your mind, metta, karuna, metta, karuna. Now please, act on it. You need to turn it into a virtue, because metta, karuna are verbs. Now the Buddha would not have become a Buddha if not for him understanding these realities of life. It is the Dhamma which made the Buddha a Buddha. Do you realize that? The Buddha became a Buddha, a fully awakened being, because of the Dhamma. And the Buddha wants us to use this same Dhamma so that we too can be awakened. Ultimately, our refuge is Dhamma, the realities of life, the facts of life. Now, no God that you worship or praise will make you a God. Let's be very honest. Despite all that talk of eternal life in heaven that you are promised left, right, and middle, no one wants to go there voluntarily. In fact, people will do everything in their power to not go to this promised paradise. Are you aware of that? If not, there is no need for all these life support machines, all these dialysis machines, etc., etc. People, no matter what they say, will do anything and everything in their power to delay going to this promised paradise. So people just talk a lot about eternal life in heaven, but it is just talk. Given a choice, no one, not even the one who is preaching to you, wants to go there. And as Steve Jobs observed, no one wants to die, he said. Even the people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet death is the destination that we all will share. So now the first link in 12 link dependent origination is ignorance. So our learning of the Dhamma is so that we can lessen our ignorance. Now, when human beings are ignorant and they do not understand, they will create gods for every need. The Chinese are very, very good. The Greeks are brilliant. And they have created gods for wealth, gods for studies, God for health, God for justice, you name it, by the hundreds, because they could not understand nature. Here, The Buddha Dhamma is the teaching for you to understand nature and to live in harmony with it. Because not understanding and taking refuge blindly in anything is unrewarding and dangerous. So in the Buddha Dhamma, definitely blind faith is a no-no. Now, Bertrand Russell, some of you of my generation would have read his works. He was considered a great intellectual at the beginning of the 20th century, with great moral fiber. And he said, when there is evidence, no one will speak of fate. You do not speak of fate when 2 + 2 is 4, or the earth is round. You only speak of fate when you wish to substitute emotion for evidence. And one of his books that I read as a teenager with a great influence on my life is this book called Why I Am Not a Christian. Now, please remember, Bertrand Russell wrote this in the early 20th century. In early 20th century England, you do not go around telling this, but he did. And it hit him professionally very, very hard. But he didn't give two hoots about it. He said, I am telling the truth, whether you like it, whether you find it pleasant or not pleasant. This book is now available free on the internet. You can just read it free online now. And similarly, Bertrand Russell, in his great exploration, said, if you look around all the religions, you will see that among the founders of all religions in the world, I respect only one man, the Buddha. And the main reason, he said, is because the Buddha did not make statements regarding the origin of the world. The rest who said the world was created in how many days and when, etc., Bertrand Russell knew was wrong, and the guy was just talking off his nuts. The Buddha was the only teacher who realized the true nature, he said. And the fundamental teaching of the Buddha, he said, is made clear by the study of the original sources, clear and simple, in its closest harmony with modern ideas. And it is beyond all dispute the achievement of one of the most penetrating intelligences the world has ever known. Well, that's Bertrand Russell for you. So the age of believing, the age of faith is over. We are now in the age of information technology. We are now in the age of knowing. And the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, is so confident. He said, as in science, so in Buddhism. Understanding the nature of reality is pursued by means of critical investigation. And if scientific analysis were conclusively to demonstrate certain claims in Buddhism to be false, wrong, then you must abandon those Buddhist claims and accept the findings of science. His Holiness is so confident. This, Dhamma brothers and sisters, is one of the most profound teachings that I learned as a young man, as a young Buddhist. Why do I say this is one of the most profound? This is because just these 8 words, they are completely against all other theistic religions. 佛在心中，心中有佛. Just these 8 words. They are so profound because they tell us what the Buddha Dhamma is and how it is fundamentally so different from all other theistic religion. 佛在心中. The Buddha is in my mind. Xin doesn't refer to heart, it refers to mind. The Buddha is in my mind. 心中有佛. In my mind is the Buddha. What do I mean? And let me try and elaborate. Let me, before that, show you a short little video.
你来的真是好。自朕登基以来，修佛寺、造佛像、抄写经卷，供养僧侣无数啊！敢问大师，真有何功德？
无功无德
啊！
这好比随行的影子，说是有，实际上却是没有。
那么做什么样的事才算有功德呢？
洁净圆满的得道者才算有，这种功德世上是求不到的。
请问大师，这世上有没有佛呢？
没有。
身为僧人，你可知道你自己是谁吗？
不知道。
真是话不投机。来人，送客。
Okay, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, I hope you saw that video and understood. This video shows the conversation between the Venerable Bodhidharma and Liang Wuti. Bodhidharma came to China around 500 something. At the time was the Liang dynasty before the Tang. And Liang Wuti was a very devout Buddhist emperor who did a lot for Buddhism. Chinese Mahayana Buddhism is vegetarian, primarily because of Liang Wuti, who insisted and made imperial edicts ordering that it be so. So when the Venerable Bodhidharma came to China, being such a famous venerable, he was ushered to the emperor's audience. And the emperor asked three famous questions, which has been studied ever since. The first question, as you heard, the emperor said, I've done so much, donated land, ordained so many people, given permission, dana so much, so much, so much. What merits do I have? And Bodhidharma replied, none whatsoever. Well, that of course pissed off the emperor very much. But that I think by now, after 14 sessions of sharing, I think you all would understand why Bodhidharma replied that way. Because if you are to do good deeds and expect praises in return, or expect celestial bitcoins in return, that is not dana. That is an investment. And that's why Bodhidharma said, as far as merits is concerned, none whatsoever. You've got your 15 minutes of fame, you will get your fu bao. But as far as gong de, none whatsoever. And in fact, Bodhidharma explained to him that gong de is when you walk the Buddha's path. Then the second question is the question that I raised here. The emperor asked Bodhidharma, is there Buddha in the world? 这个世界有没有佛? And Bodhidharma replied, no. So why did Bodhidharma answer this way? I will not discuss the third question. We'll discuss the third another time. But I will discuss the second question. Why did Bodhidharma say no? Well, Sister Li Ming, the fact that the emperor had to ask this question, is there Buddha in the world, tells Bodhidharma that the emperor is thinking of an external object called the Buddha somewhere in front or somewhere on top or somewhere. That is not the Buddha. That is the emperor's imagination. He is still looking for an external refuge. And that's why Bodhidharma replied, no, because the Buddha is not outside. For Zai Xin Zhong, in great contrast to all the theistic religions around us, the Buddha is not outside, but the Buddha is in your mind. And this was the same message our late then Venerable Dhammananda shared in his last discourse. The Buddha is in your mind, not externally. So if you keep on looking for the external Buddha, you're going to be disappointed because the Buddha is in your mind. While other theistic religions offer you an external refuge based on faith, based on power, what the Buddha is telling you is that refuge is in you, in your mind. There is no external refuge. Be a light, be an island to yourself with no external refuge. Remember, for Zai Xin Zhong, in complete contrast to other religions. And the second one, Xin Zhong You For. In your mind, you have the Buddha. And this is again in complete contrast to all other theistic religions. In the other theistic religions, you are told you are a sinner. You are worse than the scum of the earth. You need redemption. You need to be washed clean with detergent, with blood, with whatever. But in the Buddha Dhamma, no, you are not a sinner that needs redemption. In fact, the Buddha Dhamma tells you, you already have all the faculties for enlightenment in you. All it needs to be is to be awakened. The Buddha nature, or that facility or faculty or ability for enlightenment, is already in you. You need to be awakened, paying homage to the potential Buddha. And I hope you again understand this line, because this is such a profound line. Many years ago, at least 20 years or so ago, I made this little thing, which is what you see there. It still hangs on my purse, my bag, wherever I go, to constantly remind me of this very profound teaching, which is completely different from all other theistic religion. When I reached 60 years old, I made this t-shirt and gave it to all my Dhamma brothers and sisters, my Dhamma family. Brother Ju Singh very kindly helped me arrange for this t-shirt, and I made it and gave it to all my Dhamma family. For the many of you here who missed my 60th birthday, I'm so sorry, all the t-shirts have been given away already. But I want to show you a video, a very important video.
스승님, 그런데 당신은 왜 불상을 모시지 않습니까?
불상이 있는 것을 내가 알려주지. 저기 바로 커튼 뒤에 있단다.
Now, my wife loved that video. She absolutely loved it because that video has such a profound message. That video teaches us so much in the bare 10 seconds or so that it runs. Because in that video, you have a girl who was looking for the Buddha image. And the teacher so wisely told the girl, you want to see the Buddha? Behind the curtain. And when she opened up the curtain, what did she see? Her own image. I think that lesson is so powerful, so impactful, that anybody who realizes that lesson will never will never forget it. So what are the realities of life around us that we can see all the time, brothers and sisters? Well, impermanence is one. If you just look honestly, everything around us is impermanent. The first of the three, zeros. Everything is ceaselessly changing. So if you are attached to what is impermanent as a refuge, you are going to be very disappointed. So the instant you buy your computer, expect one day it will get corrupted, one day it will break down, one day it will give you trouble. So do not be disappointed, because it has the characteristic of anicca, dukkha, anatta. But on the positive side, because we are impermanent, we can now improve ourselves and be better. If you are a permanent thing, a permanent soul, an unchanging being, the Buddha said, then there is no hope, because you're never ever going to be better. Anicca. I love this teaching so much. I interviewed a woman who is terminally ill. So I tried to delicately ask, how is it like to wake up every morning and know that you are dying? Well, she responded, what is it like to wake up every morning and pretend that you are not? I think this is such a wonderful lesson. And I shared last week that if ever a genie comes up and says, Dr. Wong, you have one wish, and I will grant it. What is your wish? My wish would be, let every human being know exactly when he or she will die. Because if you and I know exactly when you and I will die, I assure you, I guarantee you, you will live your life very, very differently. You will utilize every minute, every second. You will live literally every moment, appreciating how precious it is. But that's the reality. We are all dying. But we are just pretending that we are not. So this too will pass, or this too shall pass, is the teaching that we have been reminded endlessly. Ajahn Brahm used to tell us this story so often, how good, how bad, it will pass. It may pass with a lot of pain. Do not assume that just because you are a Buddhist, it will pass painlessly. Well, it will pass, but it may give you a lot of pain. But at least you know how to deal with it. So it may pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass one day. Now, it is not just us that is impermanent. Even the universe is impermanent. And if you look in the Nikayas, the Buddha said, as he recollect his manifold past lives, many yawns of cosmic contraction, many yawns of cosmic expansion, and many yawns of cosmic contraction and expansion. Even the universe, Dhamma brothers and sisters, is impermanent, constantly changing. And the Big Bang is just part of many big bangs. It expands, and one day it collapses. And then it expands again repeatedly. Now, we often read when we teach children to them that, the Bodhisattva enjoyed a very luxurious life. And then we quote, yes, 3 residences. In summer, he had this. In winter, he had that. In the monsoon season, he had this. And then we tell people that, oh, it was such a luxurious life. Are you aware, Dhamma brothers and sisters, that what the Bodhisattva so-called enjoy as luxurious, by today's standards is Spartan. Compared to the comforts our children have today, these luxuries are Spartan. Because this is what our children have. So if we say, why is it that my children do not understand dukkha? Well, that's because we had taken everything that we can do to spare them from dukkha. So I always say, don't worry. When they grow old, when they start working, when they start having a family of their own, they will understand what is dukkha. And then they will seek for the Dhamma. So if you just look around us, you will see dukkha everywhere. Look at the internet. Look at what happened to America just 2 days ago. It's literally worldwide. Now, while the Buddha taught that it is important to recognize that dukkha is part of life, he did not deny that happiness exists too. There's lots of happiness in the world. I just had a wonderful dinner with my wife and my goddaughter. It was happiness. But it is what I call chocolate happiness. Even though the worldly happiness is real, it is impermanent. It doesn't last. And so while many of us, when we feel unhappy, for example, we take out a chocolate bar and eat it to cheer ourselves up. It tastes good. But that happiness will only last until the end of the chocolate bar. The root cause of our unhappiness remains unchanged. So now, in the face of the pandemic and in the face of another potential lockdown in just barely a few days, this is the dukkha of your sushi. Very soon, this will be all the sushi that we can afford. Very soon. And if you still do not see dukkha, if you still do not see anicca and anatta, I don't know how I can help you anymore. Of course, non-self does not mean that you do not exist. I've repeatedly shared this. It means that there is nothing permanent in you. You're always changing. Of course you exist, but not as a concrete thing. You're always changing. You're always either becoming older or degenerating, or becoming wiser or becoming a fool. So let's take a football team. Since many of the people who are helping me organize this series of talk are ardent football fans, let's take a football team. Now, many things about a football team will change over the years. Players come and go, new supporters, the team's position in the league go up and down, sometimes they get relegated. But the team still exists with its identity, even though it is made up of many impermanent changing parts, none of which is a self. So let's take Liverpool, last year's winners. Liverpool exists and play in its football stadium, but they have a totally different team every few years. The old Liverpool had died and is reborn with new manager, new players, etc. So now, do you understand about this self that we have been trying to teach you? Which is the real Liverpool? There is no Liverpool. Only a concept of Liverpool. There's nothing which is self in this. There is nothing which is permanent. It is a ceaselessly changing phenomena which we take as a concept of a football team. That's anatta. Here I'm going to share with you another very educational video.
有一個有錢人向師崖和尚求墨寶。
大師，你有冇搞錯啊？我請你嚟寫啲吉祥好詞，你點解會同我開埋啲咁嘅玩笑啊？你咒我哋死啊？
呢啲咪吉祥好詞嚟咯，有啲乜嘢唔妥先？嗱，你試諗下啦，假如你個仔先過你而死去，咁你一定會十分悲痛噶。假如你個孫死先過你個仔，咁你父子亦係十分悲痛噶噃。如果你嘅家人一代一代都係照我寫嘅次序死，咁樣就叫做享盡天年，呢啲先至係真正嘅興旺啊！你話啱唔啱啊？
又啱喎。
So Dhamma brothers and sisters, that cartoon tells us a profound teaching. During a storm, not only will the old leaves fall, usually it's the old leaves fall, but occasionally the young leaves, the green leaves will also fall. So as you reflect, you will see impermanence, you will see dukkha, you see the certainty of death, and you also see anatta, non-self. We can't control it. In that short cartoon strip, the rich man asked the Chan master, give me a jiwa, something that will bless my house. You know, the Chinese love calligraphy. And so, of course, the master said, and he wrote, the father died, the son died, and the grandchild dies. Which to the rich man, of course, is shocking. Why are you cursing me? And the Chan master explained, if your family follows this, you will have great peace and happiness. For it is inevitable that we will die. But if within your family this sequence is followed, then you will have relative peace. If at any time this sequence or order is upset, then there will be great sadness in your family. And any family that has undergone this will know the pain. So this is a reality of life. We just do not wish to admit it. And in Chan, in Buddhism, we do not deny truths. We accept it and do our best to live understanding it so that we have the least pain. So as I repeatedly say, emptiness does not mean nothingness. In fact, emptiness is the potential for change. A cup is empty, so it can be filled with anything. A gold ring is empty. You can melt the gold in the ring, and you can use that gold and make other things. It does not have a permanent structure. Look at a table. We say this is a table. Yes, it is a table, but it's actually just timber that is assembled. So we say this is timber, but again, that's not right because this timber was once part of a tree. So then we say, oh yes, this is then part of a tree. And again, it is wrong because the fact that you have a tree meant that there must be seed, there must be sunlight, soil, water. And we say the entire universe is in that tree. And so if you understand emptiness, you would understand this. On the tip of a needle, it is said, and this is a tip of a needle with a single red blood cell, the entire universe resides. Now, I hope you know that every atom in your body came from a star. Are you aware that Brother Whaley is stardust? Every atom in Brother Whaley's body came from an old star that had died, that exploded. And the atoms in Brother Whaley's left hand probably came from a different star than the atoms that are in his right hand. So literally, you, me, Brother Whaley is all stardust. All that carbon came from a star somewhere that exploded and died. Now, the Buddha does not want us to pray to him or to worship him or to seek his forgiveness. So when Sister Su Chuan bows down to the Buddha image, and I asked Sister Su Chuan, what are you doing? And she said, I'm bowing to the Buddha. Then I looked and I said, no, there's a stone image. And she said, oh, I'm bowing to an image which represents the Buddha. And then I can tell her, think further. And she says, I'm bowing to all the things, all the qualities, all the wholesome things represented by that image, all the virtues of the Buddha. So you are actually bowing to all the virtues that Sister Su Chuan hopes to be. She is actually bowing to her future self. That power to change is within us. The Buddha doesn't want us to worship him. You will not find anywhere in the Nikayas the Buddha asking you to worship him. Instead, he wants you to live a noble life. He wants you to live a life that has all the virtues that he wants us to have. So this is a nice cartoon. It says Snoopy trying to write a book, and he said, what a great title for my new book. Things I have learned after it was too late. Brothers and sisters in the Dhamma family, I hope that my sharing today is not too late. I hope that every one of us listening, my very, very loyal, close Dhamma family in Johor Bahru, my gang, literally, if I have to use a word, we are all in our 60s. I hope it is not too late for any one of us to learn this lesson, to realize it, and to activate it. Remember, we keep on saying the virtues of the Buddha. Remember what I shared earlier. Wisdom is knowing what to do. Virtue is doing it. That's why we say the virtues of the Buddha. Iti pitso bhagawa, etc. The Buddha did all of that. Now, this is the pyramid which any teacher in this audience will know. Sister Li Ming will know as a teacher. And you know that when you learn, just listening is very, very ineffective. So those of you who are listening, you only learn 5% of what I shared. Those of you who go back and read, maybe look at my slides that I've always sent, maybe 10%. You look at the videos, maybe you gain another 10%. The most important thing is discussion, practice, and the most effective, teaching another person. That's where we truly learn. That's why I have repeatedly shared that in 2 decades of sharing the Dhamma, I thank all the people who invited me, because in teaching, I actually am the one who benefited the most, because I learned the most. So I hope all of you will share this with another person, a family member, a friend perhaps. So more important than finding gold is to discover and practice Dhamma. With that, I end. I thank you. It's been a wonderful evening, and I want to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to share with you from the heart of Kuala Lumpur. Thank you very much. Over to you, Brother Bankiet.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Punna, for the inquisitive base session. Now we would like to open for questions. So please post your question in the comment section and I shall read out your question for Dr. Punna. Okay, we have a couple questions. So let's start the ball rolling. The first question is from Ming Yi Oi. The question was, is the truth important?
Is the truth important?
Yes.
Is air important for us? Well, truth is always there. Whether we want to see it or we do not want to see it is entirely up to us. So if we do not wish to see it, we remain like a man walking without light in a path that is fraught with hazards. Knowing the Dhamma, knowing the realities, is like now you having a torchlight, a bright candle, a bright lantern, and you're walking that same path fraught with hazards. So I leave it to you. Would you prefer to have a light, a deepa for your refuge to light the way, or you would prefer to grasp, stumble and fall in an unlit passageway?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Punna. The next question is from David. His question is, our suffering is mainly due to our cravings and attachment in this life. How do we overcome this?
Well, Brother David, I certainly cannot ask you tomorrow to drop everything and say you will not be attached and you will not crave anything. That is not possible. So that is why the Buddha had taught us that his path is a gradual path. The only way we can start is first to learn and then slowly incorporate it into our lives. Dana, Sila, Bhavana. Dana is doing something actively. So we are doing something actively, like for example, giving our time, our skill, our money, our clothes, etc. That teaches us to slowly let go of our craving and our attachment to our material things. So it's a very fundamental thing. First, learn to give something that is maybe perhaps excess, or maybe a skill, your time. Then we learn sila. Sila is exactly like in Malay, mannerisms, the way to behave. And these silas are like the traffic lights in the junction. If you cross a red light, you're likely to get into trouble. If you cross a green light, you're likely to be okay. So until we are fully awakened, we need the sila to help us so that we get into the least possible trouble. Then the next, bhavana. The bhavana is not meditation. As I was coming up to KL, my wife and I was discussing in the car about meditation. And I told her meditation is a horrible translation, because the instant you talk about meditation, people go, which is nothing with what the Buddha taught us. Bhavana is a training of the mind. So you can train your mind in many ways. You can train your mind with metta bhavana, which is to train your mind with loving kindness. You can train your mind with samatha bhavana, to train it with calmness. And you train your mind with vipassana bhavana, training your mind to see reality. But whatever it is that you are training, it is this graduated training which helps you slowly let go. It is not possible for us to just drop everything. It takes years, if not decades, for us to slowly let go. Next week, I will be sharing on attachments, the 4 major classes of attachments that the Buddha wants us to train to slowly let go. So Brother David, so hopefully I will see you next week and I can share with you more. As you understand the truths of life, you will see the futility of craving. You will understand why it is better to let go than to hold on. So this you will only know when you see the truths of life yourself. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Punna. The next question is from Janet Ang. The question is, with Dhamma knowledge that we have and practice, and many people that are practice really deeply, how come many of them are still not enlightened? What's lacking?
You're asking a question that is very difficult for me to answer, because there are still areas that many of us are weak in. So if you look at the 10 factors, okay, Sotapan has broken the first 3, the Sakandagamin has broken the first 3 and weakened the second, etc., etc. But we are still not awakened because we still have many things that we do not have full understanding. Let's use the example of the emperor asking Bodhidharma the 3 questions. The emperor is a very devout man. He, in history, you will see, led a life which was exemplary. But yet, despite giving away lots of material things, he had spiritual greed. He asked, how much merits that I have? That Bodhidharma tried to correct. Second, he still has fundamental misunderstandings. That's why he asked, where is the Buddha, etc. So despite many people who are working hard, working diligently, there are still many aspects that they have not understood, they have not fully realized, and that's why they are not awakened. And awakening meaning literally waking up from a dream. We may have woken up a bit, but we have certainly not completely awakened. Of course, there are many people who are very well awakened. Nobody denies that. But there are also many who are still struggling along. All right, do not worry so much, Sister Janet, about the result. Worry about the causes. Do not worry about the guo. Worry about the yin that you are planting, the seeds that you are planting. The result will take care of itself.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Punna. The next question is from Dim A. Piao. The question is, who is Shanti Deva and why are his words deemed enlightening to the Buddha's disciples?
Well, Shanti Deva was just a great teacher of the past, just as there are great teachers presently. We often quote Ajahn Chah, for example. We often quote Ajahn Brahm, for example. Those are our contemporary teachers. Shanti Deva was a teacher of old that had left behind much teachings. Okay?
Those are some questions. Shall we wait for a bit more for more questions to come?
Entirely up to my moderator.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Okay, the next question is from Hong Kyung Go. The question is, Dr. Punna, may I know your opinion about the practice of belief in Mahayana Amitabha?
Well, I hope I'm not going to get thrown out by many other centers. I've already been thrown out by quite a few centers. But the practice of Mahayana Buddhism is very, very profound. What most people talk about Mahayana Buddhism is just scratching the surface. As you go deeper into Mahayana Buddhism, it is very profound. Equally profound, if not more, than what we call Theravada Buddhism. And Amitabha, the belief in Amitabha is a question that has been asked of me many, many a times. So you're not the first. And my standard answer always is I'm not going to give my opinion, but I'm going to give the opinion of the 6th Chan Patriarch Hui Neng, because Hui Neng was also asked the same question. So I'm being very safe when I quote that this is the answer that Hui Neng gave. And you can refer to it in the Platform Sutra. It's available free online. You can look at it and you will see the Venerable Hui Neng, the 6th patriarch of the Chan tradition, in fact, the most influential teacher besides Bodhidharma of the Chan tradition. So Hui Neng was asked this by a layperson who asked him about Amitabha's Pure Land. And Hui Neng replied, and he said, the ordinary, I'm paraphrasing, of course, I'm not quoting word for word, but paraphrasing. And he said, the ordinary person thinks that if I believe in Amitabha Buddha, or I chant Amitabha Buddha's name fervently, then when I die, I will go to his Pure Land, 10万8千里 to the west. So they call it the Western Pure Land. 10,800 里, 108,000 li to the west. So he told this lay person, this is a very, very common simplistic thinking. And he said the very fact that you say to the west already reveals the simplistic thinking. What is the west, he said. To the people living here, we say that direction is west. To the people living in the west, a further direction is west. So he said that is a very mundane thinking. There is no such thing as the west in reality. And he told the person that it is in your mind. And he actually challenged the lay person. He said, if you can see this, what I'm going to teach you now, the Pure Land, 西天, will be in front of you immediately. If you cannot see it, then it is 10,800 里 away. And he said, what is this 10,800 里? 10, he said, refers to the 10 wholesome deeds. If you want to know what are the 10 wholesome deeds, just Google is there. Okay, 10 wholesome deeds. 8, the eightfold path. So he said that if you are practicing the Buddha Dhamma, doing body, speech, and mind, the 10 wholesome deeds, and following the eightfold path, the Western Pure Land is immediately in front of you right now. But if you are doing the 10 unwholesome deeds, which is the opposite of the 10 wholesome deeds, and the 10 wrong paths, which is the opposite of the Noble Eightfold Path, then the Western Pure Land is 10,800 里 away from you. So that is the best answer I can give. And that answer is found in the Platform Sutra of Liu Zhu Huineng, the 6th Patriarch Platform Sutra. You can Google it yourself. So I hope that by saying that, I won't get kicked out of more centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Punna. Okay, the last question for tonight from Alessandra Chin. If a Buddhist were to practice the Dharma and also pray to universe or gods, is this spiritually practice acceptable? What are your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, Sister Alexandra, Buddhism is not a religion. There is no creator God in Buddhism. Buddhism is basically a non-theistic philosophy. If you read the Nikayas, there is a lot of references to devas. In fact, in the Samyutta Nikaya, right at the very beginning, there is a Deva Samyutta, a whole section dedicated to devas. The difference is in the Buddha Dhamma, the devas or the gods are not fully enlightened. And when I read that long time ago, I was so happy because I finally understood why in the theistic religions, their gods claim to be jealous. Their gods can make statements like, thou shalt not bow before any other god, for the Lord thy God is a jealous God. I could not understand that statement in those old days because I said, why would a God be jealous? Jealous of what? I mean, if Banket is the only person on earth, who is he jealous of? To me, it's an oxymoron statement. Okay, so if Banket tells me he's jealous, that means there must be someone else besides Banket for him to be jealous. And if he's the only person, there's nothing to be jealous. And then you read lines like, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. And then again, I wonder, look, Banket, if you're only one person on earth, what vengeance are you talking about? So when I read the Buddha Dhamma, and I read that the devas are not enlightened. They may be more powerful, they may live longer, but they are not enlightened. And they certainly have all the emotions that we human beings have. And they even go to war with each other. And I said, okay, now I understand. So while Sister Alexander Chin, you can learn the Dhamma, It will make you perhaps a good Buddhist Christian, a good Buddhist Jew. You know that there's a group called Buju? These are Buddhist Jews. I'm not bluffing. You go and Google it yourself. They are called Bujus. They are Buddhist Jews. And a lot of the very prominent Dhamma teachers in the West are Jews. I will not name their names, but they are Jews. They are Buddhist Jews. You can Google it yourself. So hopefully when you learn the Buddha Dhamma, you understand that spiritual aspect that you may perhaps come from better. But as far as many of my Dhamma brothers and sisters, including I myself, the word God exists, except it is spelled as G, full stop, O, full stop, D, full stop. Gift of Dhamma. My God is the gift of Dhamma. Okay, sister? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Punna. We have now come to the end of our Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Punna Wong, for sharing the Dhamma with us today. If you wish to obtain a copy of the Breaking Myth ebook, you may download from the link given in the Facebook comment section. Now, let's have a short recap of today's Dhamma. The Dhamma is the truth. It is universal and is unchanging by locality, culture, or time. It is also verifiable. Truth is impersonal. It does not favor anyone, nor forgives or is banned by prayers or offerings. It is inevitable in its outcome and is timeless. The truth is all things are impermanent and constantly changing. Thus, if we are attached to these impermanences, we could end up being disappointed. The presence of suffering is also a truth which can't be denied. However, the suffering which leads to the end of suffering is worth it. Non-self does not mean that we do not exist. It's just that there's nothing permanent in us. We are always changing in both body and mind. The Buddha does not need us to pray, worship, or to seek his forgiveness. Thus, we must have confidence in ourselves that we can change to be the better. The power to change is with us. The Buddha wants us to live a noble life in harmony with Dhamma. And he wants us to realize the truth verified by ourselves through practice. To conclude today's session, let us rejoice and dedicate merits. Let us recall all meritorious action that we have done. We have made the right effort to participate in this Dhamma sharing. We renew our faith and refuge in the three jewels and learn to develop wisdom and compassion. May all beings, without limit, have a share of this merit. And in whatever other merit we have made, those who are dear and kind to us, including our mother and father, teachers, friends, relatives, our dearly departed relatives, and others, whether neutral or hostile, or sentient beings in this universe. If they know of our dedication of merits, may they rejoice with us. By the reason of their rejoicing in our gift of merits, may all beings be free from harm and danger, and live with peace and happiness. Let us now make an aspiration. May we meet with wise friends and teachers who guide us along the path of Buddha Dhamma, and finally attain the perfect state of Nibbana, where all suffering cease. We would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Punna, for sharing the Dhamma with us. May you be blessed with good health, strength, peace, and happiness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Here are some announcements from Kinara Metta Buddhist Society. KMBS is resuming our Sunday Puja service on this Sunday on a fortnightly basis. All are invited to participate in this online puja session via Zoom as we renew our faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. There will be sutta recitation and sharing of merits as well. This Sunday also marks the first day of our Sunday Dharma School for 2021. We welcome old and new students to embark on an exciting journey of the Dhamma learning together with Kayalana Mitras. For more information, please contact Sister Evelyn or Sister Laili. Contacts are provided on the slide. KMBS Adult Dhamma Class for Beginners, also known as Ananda Class, caters to those who would like to learn the Buddha's teachings systematically in an interactive format. The topics shall include basic Buddha's teachings, values, how to lead a happy life, and mindfulness practice. Online registration is now open. For further details, kindly contact Sister Suchuan. The general perception on Buddhism is that all Buddhists must let go of everything. Is that true? Do join us for another Breaking Myth session with Dr. Punna Wong next Friday at 8:30 p.m. with the topic, Letting All Go. Thank you for joining us this evening. The Breaking Myths online Dharma sharing shall continue next Friday at 8:30 p.m. Do watch out for our poster and announcement via Facebook. Goodbye, stay safe, and Suki Hontu.